looking back, man, I probably put that video on 7 years ago. That video's gone viral on YouTube. I'm like, that is crazy. Out of all of the stuff that I talk about, this video when I'm young, I'm still shy, I'm nervous on the camera, I'm stuttering a little bit. And I was like, the reason why it's going viral because people can see that is who I truly am. If everybody would show up as their unique, authentic self, the world would be in a better place overnight. Too many people are trying to be like someone else when the world needs you to be you.
Happy birthday to you.
Shock, shock, shock.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the No Half Cakes podcast. My name is Jim Sabelico, and I am your host for this show. Now, if this is your first time here, I want to give you a big welcome, and obviously, I'm super happy to have you here. Before I get into today's show, because today's show I have an awesome guest for you, who I'm going to introduce to you in a minute, I wanted to just take a quick step back and make sure you understand why we are here in the first place. The name of the show, No Half Cakes, refers back to a promise I made to myself on the night I came home on my son's 6th birthday. Because I came home 8:45 at night because I was busy trying to be successful, and I ultimately came home to half a birthday cake because I missed his birthday. I was out. I honestly couldn't even tell you what I was doing, but when I came home and wanted to still sing happy birthday because I thought I could still show up and save the day, I missed it. And standing there in front of that half-eaten birthday cake, I made that promise to myself: no more half cakes, meaning I don't want to accept half of anything anymore. I wanted to have a life that was truly successful, not just financial in terms of, hey, I'm good at business or I have a nice house, I have a nice car, but I wanted to understand what real success was. I wanted to be successful in the areas that meant the most to actually having impact in life, right? I wanted to have success in my personal relationships because as I stood there, I had no relationship with my wife. I had no relationship with my kids. I barely knew myself. I was in the worst physical shape of my life. So now what I want to do and the reason for this show to exist is to have the conversation to figure out, hey, how do we become the most successful version of ourselves? How do we get the whole cake in terms of our professional success, our relational success, our emotional success, our physical health, our spiritual success, and our financial success, right? So that's what the purpose of this show is it's to talk about how do we get true meaningful success. And my guest today, someone who has really dedicated his life to being truly successful, to being happiness, to bringing joy to people, to helping them find success, not just in terms of their professional life, but in terms of joy, in terms of being a light, being an example of what's possible when you dedicate your life to what your purpose is, what your calling is. And so this conversation, these Wednesday shows are really the ones that I enjoy the most because we get to get deep into the good, the bad, the ugly. We talk about the journey. We talk about people you look at as successful. We talk about the real stuff. These conversations are not scripted. These conversations are real and raw. So I'm going to bring on my guest right now, Mr. Jaris Tucker. Jaris, I'm super happy to have you, man.
Thank you for having me, man. It's an honor.
My pleasure, man. The honor is all mine. I've done a little bit of research into your background, the work that you do, and I'm impressed by your dedication to it all. So I'd love if you could just give us a quick rundown as far as who you are, how you got here.
Thank you. Like you said, my name is Jaris Tucker Sr. Everybody calls me Cap. I was just a regular guy, I grew up in the projects, low income housing. I always had a sense of leadership installed in me as a child. My mama really put that in me. So I would say since I was around about 7, I've always been the older brother, but the younger brother, the one that was always responsible, and I didn't get to play too much. So growing up like that, having that upbringing just helped me to transition into the entrepreneur and speaker that you see today.
That's awesome. So, I mean, growing up that way, were there certain events that sort of shaped your childhood in terms of things that you look to maybe prevent other people from going through now?
Yeah, like I say, when you are at a young age responsible for your older brothers and sisters, I would have to shield and protect them from a lot of things. So when you ask that question, me thinking back now in real time, that would help me to prevent some of my friends or homeboys that, we grew up in the streets. So that would help me to say, hey, look, guys, we might not do that. We can do this, but let's not take it on the deep end. So I would say that was a direct correlation onto why I am the person I am today.
Right. Yeah, that's really good. I think a lot about the definition of possibility, and I look for, how do I show up in the relationships that I have, either with my friends, with my kids, with associates, and the example of what's possible. And I think what you're talking about there is raising that standard for people. So hey, even if this is where we started from, doesn't mean we have to stay here. This is where we're capable of going. And I think the work that you're doing to show people what's possible is really amazing. So like for you, how do you continue to elevate your definition of what's possible?
Well, Jim, you hit the nail on the head. I, over time, had to come to the understanding and realization that people are watching me, because I made it up in my head a long time ago that I wanted to be successful per my definition. So that helps keep me grounded, just being who I am, waking up in the community, knowing, hey, you got these people watching you. And not only are they watching me, they're mimicking me. So I give you a quick example. When I first started to put myself out there on social media, and I was just doing little different things, trying to be a content creator, whatever, I would just notice my friends, just people on social media sites. I'm like, wow, they're doing the same thing that I'm doing. I'm putting hashtags in the posts. I will see them do that music, not saying that everybody copied me, but I know from that, and then people will come out and just tell me, hey man, I grew up in the streets too. I see you made a change. I can see you dressing different. I can see you're doing different. So I'm going to do that. So when that happens, when people stop you in the streets and say, hey, I'm making a change because I've seen you make a change, that helps keep me balanced and grounded.
That's so good. Now I got to ask you, what about the haters? What about the people who maybe see you making a change and they're in a spot where they're filled with a little bit of negativity and they want to keep you down? Have you run into that scenario?
Yeah, I just came out of that. And that's for the people that's watching, that's going to always be there. But for me, man, that's a very good question. So what I noticed was I was hanging around a lot of people, right? And I didn't know it at the time that they were not with me. It's like, you're hanging out, you think everything's good, but I didn't know that my light was irritating their demons, so to speak. So what I come to realize was, even with them people, one person in particular, they still mimic and do the same thing. So it's like, okay, we've been around you. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna try to use what we've watched you use. And I just heard somebody share on social media, that's still good, because everything is used for the benefit on the rise of the Most High. So even if it can perceive to be negative, they don't understand it subconsciously. I've helped plant seeds by me being able to use a vessel inside of their subconscious mind. So they may hate and they may act out, but you got to really break down what is hate. And I did this a long time ago. Hate can be broken down in a lot of categories. Sometimes hate is just, some people just don't know how to say, hey, I'm scared to do what you did. How did you do that? Now you do got the hate where it's like, resentful, and people want to see you, see harm come to you. But most of the time, hate is just people just don't understand, because when you're transitioning and shifting to these levels and vibrations that we're on, how could they understand? I didn't even understand it. So I cannot, I can side with you to see why that would make you hate, because almost like a mirror when people see me. So when they see me, it's like, dang, they are having to bear witness to some of their own shortcomings. And a lot of people just don't know how to deal with that.
So where did you learn to have grace for people? So I think that's really what that is it's giving people grace to be themselves, and really understanding when someone comes to you with that hate, it's not just what it is on the surface, but it's really something deeper. So for you, has that always been a thing, or did you learn grace from somebody in your life?
I learned grace when I had to beg for God's grace. And I had to look and see how he was showing me that in my life. So even though I've never been, in my opinion, I've never been a bad person, I've never been anybody that I feel like would go off on a deep end and try to really harm anybody. But I've done a lot of things in my life that I'm not satisfied, that I repent and wish I could change. So if I put myself in those shoes, then everybody else deserves it too. You know what I'm saying? Who am I to act like I'm better than these people or whatever? And I've heard people say that, man, you think you're better. I'm saying, well, sometimes I might be, but I'm not carrying it like that. I'm humble enough to know that my clock went off early. Everybody got that time. I don't say everybody. Many of us have that time ticker on it. It's going to go off when they're going to get it. I just was fortunate and blessed enough to get it early in the game. So I have the duty and responsibility to make sure that I'm the example. So grace comes with it because you don't want to be in a spot where you're doing good and then it all pulls down and then you fall and you got to look back on these people. So grace is very important.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I love what you talked about, how, when people say, oh, you just think you're better, because that's something that a lot of people struggle with. And honestly, I still deal with it literally every day, where people think just because you're out here trying to help other people be the best version of themselves, you have all the answers and you are portraying yourself as you're the best. You don't have any problems. You don't, go through struggles. And it's a really difficult thing to go through where, in a lot of areas, yeah, you might be more advanced than someone because you've done the work, right? You've had this experience early on where you've been able to spend years growing and improving and mastering these skill sets where some people maybe haven't even recognized them yet. So it's a really difficult thing to walk through when, someone comes to you and say, oh, you think you're better than me. No, like I'm human just as you. I'm just an average guy, right? I'm just an average person. And I think that's why these conversations are so important to show, hey, we are real people. We are just, maybe we've spent a little bit more time honing our skill. And it makes me think about yesterday. I was with both my kids and I put training wheels in my daughter's bike because she's learning how to ride a bike. My son learned how to ride a bike. He's older. So he's got like 4 years of head start on her to be able to ride on a bike by himself. And so yesterday we went out for a bike ride. I put the training wheels in my daughter's bike and we go out there and he is zooming. He's going up and down the block by himself because he's got that experience. He's a little bit further ahead skill set wise. And she sees him going and she wants to keep up. And she wants to immediately be able to be at his level, right? She wants to take the training wheels off and she wants to copy what he's doing. And I had the conversation with her yet. Like, you literally just put the training wheels on today. We're not there yet. Like, he's got 4 years of practice doing this. He went through the process of training wheels. You don't remember it, right? You were so young at the time that you don't remember when he couldn't ride a bike. And I think that's, the reason I bring that up is because I think that's an important part is people don't see the struggle, right? A lot of times they don't see the time when we had our training wheels on. And a lot of people don't have that conversation because it's really hard for us as men, right, to come out here and say like, I need training wheels. I am deficient in this area. I am not great at this skill set, right? And I need to grow. We try and come out here with this persona that we are the best of the best. We are tough. We are masculine men. We don't have emotions. We don't have feelings. But I think it's important for people to see our training wheels, right? For people to see, hey, you're human just like me. You're not maybe better than me. You're just a little bit further down the road. And I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, that's perfect. I mean, I love your analogy and I just want to beg you back on it. What I learned is God is just so grand and so vast, whether you believe in, not even on a religious base, just a higher power base that I've heard of people several times say, hey man, this guy think he's better than this or he didn't deserve it. And that same person will go off in their life, whether it's 2 years later, they always will come back and say, hey man, I owe you an apology. Like, what you talking about? Man, I thought you had it easy, but I ran into somebody that I respect and your name came up. And they was like, no, man, this guy was really, and I said, oh, so just speaking on my life, I've learned that happens for me. Like, you don't know how the universe is working. You don't know how things is transitioning, things is playing out. So I don't worry about it. But you just made a very good point when you were talking about your children. A lot of people do see it though. That's something that I'm learning too. A A lot of people do see and know you put the work in. Some people just want overnight gratification, or some people just don't want to put the work in. But for the ones that don't see it, they will eventually see it through somebody that they respect, whether it's, you take some people that I watch on social media sometimes, and I'm like, man, I don't agree with that guy. Then I keep listening to them or her, whoever it is, and I get to watching them, and they'll pull somebody that knew them from when they were younger, and I say, okay, all right, I might not agree with everything you're saying, but they did go on a journey, and I can look at my own personal journey. I thought I was supposed to take off years ago. It was nothing nobody could tell me. I just knew I would be super successful. Then it didn't happen. Then I started to really understand and study business that, hey, if you open up a business and you stay in business, let's just say 5 years, that's great because the average business is not doing that long. So then you take 5 years, then you say, okay, some people, it took 10 years. Some people, it took 20 years. You got some people, they even talking about, man, it took 40 years. So I'm like, you know what? You have to just understand where you're at in your journey, be thankful for the process. And to me, it's all about alignment now. That's my special word for myself, is just aligning with the divine timing and my purpose. That's why I'm at my life career.
That's so good. And I think that takes a lot of faith to really believe that everything you're going through right now will be used for good eventually. Where did that faith come from for you? Was that something you always had, or were there some experiences along the way where you maybe stopped and looked back at this thing that I thought wasn't working out for me actually was?
Well, there's two parts to that. I've always just had faith. I didn't really go up in the church or for a while we did have a religious upbringing. But for me, I don't know, man. I just think it was just something instilled in me from the Most High himself to always believe. I mean, I've always believed, even when people tell me, I was dealing with a situation, man, and the Bible, the God gave me a story with this young lady. He was like, "Don't look back." The Bible saying. I said, "Well, that's cool, but I still got 3% faith. So I see that the Bible says don't look back, and that was a situation that the average person would not look back. But I'm glad that I did have faith. So it was always situations like that, because when I see these people later, it might be 10 years later, they might have to go to prison, get out of jail, go through a lot of things. Then I could see them like, you know what, man, I like what you're doing. I'm trying to do the same thing, even if they might not get it. But just somebody strive on the strength of what they seen me do, little old me, that gives me faith alone and says, look, I got to do it. Even if, I'd have been in situations where it looked like it's no way out. And I got strong faith. In one particular time, I was ready to hit the panic button. And I had my cousin right there. He's like, man, don't hit the panic button. We still got time. I'm like, dang, I know I got faith. But for me to hear him say, hold on, and I'm glad we did hold on, because we were able to escape. We were doing something we didn't have any business, but we still made it out. And that set in my head. I said, man, he told me, don't hit the panic button. I'm a man of strong faith. I don't care. I knew we was going to be all right, but I was ready to give up. So that just helped me to know that, man, even if don't nobody else believe, as long as you believe in it and it's on a righteous path, in a righteous way of thinking, I mean, it has to pass.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes me wonder how many times maybe your cousin has seen you told him to have faith and to continue forward before he repeated it back to you.
Yeah. And that's the same conversation, Jim, we're having. Like, I didn't think about it till you said it, but just imagine me put myself, listening to what you're saying, live action. He probably got that from being around me, saying, hey, you're like the leader in our family. So if I'm around you, we just don't need to panic, because I've noticed that about me, not trying to, giving all praise due to the Most High, but being humble. Every situation I've been in, every job I've ever had, I always would come in as a temp and work my way up to being the leader, not just the average leader. I mean, the person that's responsible, was the plant manager, the property manager. So I got to thinking, I said, why do people do me like that? I'm not that good of a hard worker. I will work hard, but I'm just not trying to. I said, well, it took me a long time to see that people can see the light in you, even if you don't see it. So you're right, Jim. He saw something in me because I was ready to give up. I thought it was over for us. I mean, we were doing something we had no business. I was like, well, the time is ticking. Let's just go on up to it and get it out the way. He said, man, no, hold on, wait. He told me straight up. He said, don't push the panic button. So a lot of times we just can't see what other people can see. But just to build up on our conversations, you start with something small that you know you had faith in and it worked out. Everybody got something that we wanted to happen, whether we wanted mom to bring us some ice cream, whether we wanted the teacher to put on a movie and not do any work. So you play on that. And for me, over years, I'm just a true studier and I do meditation. I just really tap in super hard and test the limits because I've always heard that we serve a God that, don't like to put limits on us as long as it's in a righteous way of thinking. So I'm always the person that says, hey, I want to test my faith. I want to test God. Hey, God, if you got something in store for me, show me what you got. And every single time he shows me. Now, I don't get the easy route. I have to work 2 years and slave and, do different things. But even during that time period, I see why, because I'm learning, I'm meeting people. I'm changing my own mindset. People are able to watch me now, like the people that I'm working for now. They basically let me do anything I want to do. I don't have to ask any questions. I just do what I do. And somebody told me this yesterday. They said, you know why they treat you like that? Because they can trust you. So if man can trust you, then you know what God is doing for you.
Right. Now, man, there's so many questions I want to ask from that. But the first one that comes to mind is when you talk about being able to trust somebody, I think a really big part of that is you understand or you can see that that person is operating as their authentic self, right? You can see that they're not putting a mask on or they're not trying to be a different person. So I love like your experience. Did you have that experience where you had to figure out who your authentic self was and how to really operate in that? Because I think a lot of people they lack self-confidence. They're not really strong with who they are. They want to put on this image that they are somebody else. So like that self-confidence and that understanding of who your authentic self is, talk to me about that.
Yeah, that's a very good point. A lot of us are wearing masks. Even me, we do that to protect ourselves. I think, we're uniquely made, so I can't be the same person for everybody. So wearing a mask is good. But for me, it started learning how to even be authentic in what I was doing. I got on LinkedIn and I was just promoting my business. I'm a good dude. I got a good reputation. I'm gonna get on LinkedIn. I'm gonna crush it. So I just was on there. Hey, y'all, buy from me. Buy this. I'm selling this. And they were like, no, no, we don't do this on LinkedIn. You got to put yourself out here. You got to let us know who you are. And I was like, oh, because they just told me straight up. So from then I started to put out, I wasn't selling anything. I would just say, hey, look, man, I was trying to sell stuff. Being an entrepreneur is very difficult or whatever. Put out videos. Man, the feedback come in like that. So that's when I noticed. I said, that's what people truly want, because anybody can get on the camera and say, hey, look, I just did this. I'm successful. I got a multi-million-dollar properties. Oh, that sounds good, but that's not doing nothing for me. When you're authentic, it rubs off on the next person watching you, because energy is all you're doing is just showing, hey, look, this is my pure intent. This is who I am at my core. People can pick up on that. So it encourages them to say, well, if he can be authentic, then I can be authentic. And I did a video when I was first on LinkedIn. I was just talking about kindness. Very authentic video. I was just my natural self. And looking back, man, I probably put that video on 7 years ago. The last 2 years, I look at the video, that video's gone viral on YouTube. I'm like, that is crazy. Out of all of the stuff that I talk about, this video, when I'm young, I'm still shy, I'm nervous on the camera, I'm stuttering a little bit. One of my very first videos is going viral. So that always set with me. And I was like, the reason why it's going viral because people can see that is who I truly am. I'm not trying to be Mr. Jaris Tucker, the entrepreneur, trying to sound perfect. I just put the camera on, hit record, and said what was on my heart. So to me, that's the key to it all.
Yeah, and I could end the podcast right there, and that would be the cherry on top, because that is such good advice, is to just be yourself. Yeah, it's so simple, but like being your authentic self and showing up and looking to serve, right? Not I think a lot of people go to LinkedIn and they say, hey, buy my stuff, come do this for me. And it's very self-centered. But when you show up as a servant leader, when you show up there to really help somebody else and not even necessarily ask for something in return, but just show up to give, it opens up the conversation. And I think that's when the bounties and the rewards really come in, is when you show up as your authentic self and you serve. And I just love what you said about how that really helps to just rise everybody. It's such an amazing thing. And for people to show up as their authentic self, man, that's such a gift.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it took work, and it wasn't overnight. I really took 2 years of my life to dedicate myself into learning and studying. Long story short, I was a production supervisor, doing very well. And I quit that job and I started writing my first book. So I started working for a hotel, and I was cleaning their hotel rooms just to have a place to live. And as I was doing that, I was just listening to other speakers, and I was studying, I was learning. I said, I'm just gonna go on this journey. So this whole hotel room, I would just put sticky notes and different things, different positive messages, and I would just study. So I started noticing after, I would do these affirmations every day. The first week, I would just go through them. Second week, I could feel it. By the third week of me doing them every day, I was like, wow, this is changing me. By the fourth week, I was speaking it into existence, and I was noticing, hey, look, today I'm going to have a good day or whatever. And as soon as I would step outside, a super miracle would happen. So a lot of people don't understand. You got to go within. You have to put your personal work in. I don't know what you can do, Jim, to help yourself, but go in. But once you start doing that, the answers will come to you. So I didn't have to ask people, hey, what do you need to do? And I would go in and say, hey, Jaris, listen, you want to be authentic, you lead people, you got to stop lying. Because not just lying, I was always the type of person that would just lie to get out of doing something, scared to say no. So if somebody wanted me to do something, give them a ride. Yeah, I'll be back. No, daggone well, I'm not coming back. So I would look at myself and say, hey, look, that's what you got to work on. So the next time somebody would ask me, hey, man, you get a ride? I was like, nah, you know what? I don't feel like going anywhere. You know what I mean? Then I would just get to the point of just being honest and saying, no, I can't do it. Not even giving any feedback with it. So that's was something I had to learn. And I encourage all people to spend time with yourself. The thoughts come in, and if the thoughts are too crazy, slow down. Just deal with yourself. I think a lot of us have issues with being alone, allowing our mind to show and guide you to the direction that you know where you want to go anyway.
Yeah, what you said there really reminds me of something I heard recently, is that God will make sure that every bird is provided for food, that every bird has food, but he's not going to drop worms in their nest. Right. And that's the thing that, like, I think a lot of people don't realize, that you'll be provided for, but it's not going to be handed to you. Like, you still have to go out there and do the work. And even if it is, aligned with the righteous way, even if it is something that is God given to you, doesn't mean it's physically going to be handed to you Amazon Prime on your doorstep tomorrow. Like, you still have to be willing to go through the trials and tribulations. You still have to be willing to do the work to be able to reap that reward. And I think, like you said, to be able to be positive and to look at, all these things are coming together for me to be able to reap this reward, because you've put in the work. You didn't just say, I expect this to show up for me and then sit back and wait. And yeah, it sucks sometimes to have to go do the work. I'm sure that there were plenty of times where you'd rather not. Like, there's plenty of times where I'd rather not do the thing, where you want to just take the day off and do something else. But you can't. You got to go through the process and be able to reap those rewards. I just love the way you said it. And the story you told about being willing to work at a hotel just to have some place to live. Man, that's crazy. Most people will not do that. They wouldn't. And so, like, that dedication, to me, just, it's clear looking backwards. I think we talked about this a little bit before, like, looking backwards, your success is clear. Right? It's clear why you got here, because you were willing to do the work. You were willing to, make the short-term sacrifice for the greater good. And I think if people can take one lesson from that, then there have been so many lessons dropped in this episode so far, but if people could take a lesson from that, be willing to humble yourself and to serve, and to show up, and to not worry about people are going to judge you for, cleaning hotel rooms or whatever it is, because they're going to judge you anyway, right? They're going to say, if you had no job, people would say, oh, you're lazy, right? That you've got that job, people are going to say, oh, you're just doing this. Like, no matter what you do, you're going to be judged. So just do you, man. And I love that authenticity about you. I think that's what makes you such a leader.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head again, Jeff. I didn't know it all. I still don't try to know it all. All thing I try to do is control what I can control, and I just implement what I've learned. And I'm not scared to try something. I'm an experimenter. I'm a business marketing guy, so I know the benefits of trying something. If it doesn't work, at least I can say, "Hey, that doesn't work." But what I've learned to do is now just listen and learn from other people. So if I saw this person do something and it didn't work, not saying it didn't work for me, but I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna just save some time. He put it to, if you gonna put some money in that soda machine and it does not spit out the soda, I'm gonna say, you know what, let me save time. I just go to the grocery store. So for me, I just try to do me, and I teach other people. That's the key. If everybody would show up as their unique, authentic self, the world would be in a better place overnight. Too many people are trying to be like someone else when the world needs you to be you.
Yeah. Yeah. When you said that, what it made me think of is you don't know it all, but you know all of yourself. Like, I think to just look at the equation that way, instead of trying to know all the answers for everything in life, how to grow a business, how to market everything, you focused on knowing who you are, your true authentic self. And when you know yourself, man, the rest of it fills in by itself.
Yes, and I studied that because you hit that. I just want to bring it up for the audience. That is so powerful because I know me. So I know when I'm scared, I know when I'm nervous, I know when it's a difficult conversation need to be had. I know when I need to just say, look, I see those group of guys over there, I'm just gonna go leave because I know me. And that's all it is. Once you know you, the world almost starts to serve you in a sense.
Yeah, especially like when you know your core values, it makes it a lot easier to decide what you're going to do, right? You already know what's right and wrong. You don't have to think about, when you're in this scenario, what do I do? Is it right? Do it. Is it wrong? Don't do it. Like, really simple. Like, how do you feel about having core values?
That's what it all boils down to. Like I say, man, you hitting everything in my journey spot on. I studied that. I had to look at what are your core values when it comes to this. Like, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about the president? How do you feel about what they're doing in the school systems? I really had to really dig deep and say, you know what? Some things it's just a no go. You know what I mean? I'm not even gonna go into it, but there's certain things that's happening in the world. I don't care what's going on. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna protect my family and children at all costs. I made that in my hand. If something happens and I got to sacrifice myself because somebody's acting crazy to protect my children and family, as a man, that is my duty. So when you start to really build yourself up with those core values, whatever you believe in, but a key to it for me was I had to look at my old core values and upgrade them because of some of my traditional beliefs that were just not sustainable in today's time. That was something I had to do. My mom might instill me to do this. And I had to say, well, she was doing the best she could, but this is a new time. So I'm going to let that value go. But you meditate on, you allow them to become you. They're already inside of you anyway. So you know what's right and what's wrong. You know what you're going to stand on. And core values, Jim, and your authentic self go hand in hand. And I just remember on LinkedIn when I was teaching a course on that, that's what we use. We use your core values to help you become your authentic self. So I give you your flowers with that point, man. A lot of people don't understand how big knowing your core values are.
Yeah. And I can't stress enough how important of a process that is to really understand what those are. It's almost like a cheat code for life. Like, once you have those core values, it makes everything so much easier because you don't have to think about it. You don't have to question yourself on it. You don't have to sit up at night wondering if you did the right thing, because you know. And man, honor to you for going through that process and living it out and being that beacon of possibility for people, because I'll tell you what, it makes a big difference. I talk a lot about the difference between, like, a lot of men try and be the tugboat in the harbor, trying to, hustle and grind it out and trying to help other friends do stuff, but we need more lighthouses. We need more people who are willing to just stand up on the shore and be filled with light and show other people what's possible. And you are that definition, man. So I just want to honor you for that, for showing up and for just being who you are. Because it really is a gift to have people like you around.
I thank you. I don't take that lightly because one thing I've learned to do now is to do what you said, because for so many years, man, I was shy, introvert. I could see something going on and turn the other way and be scared to death to say, that's going on. Maybe we should do no. So I'm thankful to have come out of this shell. For anybody that's shy, timid, or introvert, don't put any labels on yourself. Slowly come out to your shell, because like Jim said, that's what this world needs. The earth is raising its own vibration. If you slow things down to the speed of nature, you can feel the heartbeat of the universe. And when you shine your light, your authentic light, that's when things start to change. So I was always shining my light once I was getting out of my shell. But I had to learn, you can shine your light. But when God shines his light on your light, and then you just become one with that divineness, that's when the magic happens.
Yep. Yeah, a buddy of mine likes to say, when he puts his super on your natural, right? That's what it really comes down to. But you got to show up as your natural self first. So that's so good. I got a couple other questions I'd love to ask you. Question number one would be, if you had one bit of advice to give someone to have a slightly better day, what would that piece of advice be?
Before you go to bed, or when you wake up, you tell yourself that. Keep it simple. I'm going to have a better day today. And you allow that to manifest in your life. That's simple.
Love that. I really do, because it's simple.
It's the best, man. I don't care what nobody says. It is the best. I do it, man. I notice if I'm having a bad day, I might have woke up too fast and didn't do that. So I'm like, man, it's coming at me quick. The enemy coming fast. This going on. I can handle it. I'm like, I pause and say, you didn't set your tone for the day. That's why and I will set my tone even today. I was just so tired, man. I was just, soaking in the jacuzzi. I don't know if I did it too hot or too cold, but I was drained today. And I said, I'm going to cancel this podcast. I've never canceled a podcast. And I said, no, we're not. This is going to be the podcast where you can let your light shine. I didn't know you. You don't know me. And look how it worked out. So that's proof in the pudding for anybody else. You have to be able to set your tone and then keep to it. When you say it, you got to believe it, though.
Can I tell you something funny? I'm a rat on myself for this one, because I've been up early today and having some problems. I'm doing a live event this weekend where we got to present this new technology, and it hasn't been, right, there's been some problems with it. And I've spent most of the morning in meetings and trying to fix this stuff, and there's been problem after problem, and I was not necessarily in the inspirational, motivational mood to have this conversation. And so I thought to myself this morning, let me reach out and just see if we could postpone this to another time, because I'm just not in the right space for it. And I have never done that. Never. I've always said, hey, if it's on the calendar, I'm going to do it. But I thought to myself this morning, maybe today's not the day. Maybe today's not the day for this conversation. I'm not right for it. Let's just push it. Let's do it a different day. And I thought to myself, no, you said you were going to do something. You're going to do it. You're going to show up and you're just going to let the magic happen. And I tell you what, for you and I to both today have had that same experience where we're like, man, I've never done this before, but let me change this. And it's something different.
That's what I say is what you cannot create. That's when you know you're on the right path. That's when you know you raise your frequency. When things that are unexplainable happen, that lets us know, you and I and the people watching, when you want to know, well, how do I know? When stuff like this happens, that's how you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a coincidence. Like there comes a certain amount of time where like you can't pin this stuff on coincidence anymore. It's just not possible. That's too good.
Right. Got my hair standing up on my arm, man. Wow.
That's crazy. All right. So my next question for you would be, like, I always ask everyone this because I always feel like it brings such an interesting conversation. Is there a favorite type of cake that you enjoy? You tie some type of a family memory to a celebration or something like that?
I'm big on sweets and I love variety, But I would say if I had to get something right now to say it will be my favorite, I think it will be German chocolate cake.
It's a good choice. It's my dad's favorite, actually.
Okay, cool.
It's a good answer. I actually should call him after this, and I will. So thank you for that. And really, the last question I have on my heart, and I don't usually do this, so it's a bit of a curveball, but I feel called to do it. Would you pray for us to close this out?
Yeah, I'll be honored to. Ready now?
Let's do it.
Our Father who in heaven, we are honored and thankful to just take a moment out to just say thanks. I feel like gratitude is the ship that carries in the grounding that we all need, which later leads to abundance. So I pray for Jim and his family, for him showing up in his true, authentic self, allowing me to shine my light on his podcast. And we pray that this episode reaches all who are in need to hear the message that we so delivered uniquely today. We just want to give thanks, honor, and praise to you and let your will happen as you see forth. And once again, we just want to thank you for this time, this hour, and this second to give glory to you and to do our due diligence in helping raise the vibration on this earth. With that said, we say amen.
Jaris, this has been incredible, brother. I really can't thank you enough for this entire experience and just showing up and being your authentic self, because I don't know, you can't replicate this, you can't fake this, and it's so impactful for me personally to just have these experiences and meet people who are just out there just putting in the work and being their authentic selves. And there's times, like I said this morning, and sometimes even now, even this far into the journey, you're just not feeling it, right? And it's helpful, like you said, with your cousin, to have that person to tell you, hey, don't hit the panic button.
Yeah, hit that panic button.
So I just, again, want to honor you for being that person and, just let you know that it makes a difference. So thank you for being you.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Any way that we can support you?
No, I just tell everybody, when you support yourself, you're supporting me. But you can follow the best hashtag that is online right now. That is the hashtag Bankers at Work.
Love it. I'll be sure to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. It's been fun.
All right. I will definitely be in touch, Jim.
Thank you.